The office was quiet, save for the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional clatter of a keyboard from the cubicle down the row. Jason rubbed his eyes and pressed his temples, the strain of 12-hour days catching up with him. The promotion he'd been chasing had landed him in endless meetings, budget reviews, and late-night client calls. He had told himself it was temporary, that all the long hours and sacrifices were for the family. He glanced at his phone. A message, not from a client, not from a co-worker, from her. "I can't stop thinking about you. Meet me tonight?" At first, he assumed it was a mistake. A wrong number, maybe, or some spam disguised in familiar fonts. But as his gaze sharpened, the contact name made his stomach twist. Megan. His heart thumped in sudden panic. He didn't know anyone named Megan. He hadn't. Wait, yes. He did. Or rather, he had known someone named Megan. A colleague of his wife, Rebecca, from the office she joined months ago. He remembered now, faintly, laughter drifting over conference calls, shared rides home, the way Rebecca had sometimes lingered on stories about her friend, glowing and animated. The phone buzzed again. "I know it's complicated, but I can't wait any longer. Just tonight." "Hey, honey," Rebecca said, emerging with a warm smile, carrying a plate of something that smelled like garlic and rosemary. She looked tired, but radiant. "Dinner's almost ready." Jason forced a smile. "Thanks. Smells good." They ate in an uneasy rhythm, each clink of cutlery magnifying the silence that had grown between them over the past months. Jason had been away so often, working late nights, weekends, always for the family. Rebecca had always been patient, supportive, but now he couldn't ignore the gnawing suspicion that patience had a limit. After dinner, Jason retreated to the study under the pretense of catching up on emails. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, but his mind raced through scenarios, conversations, anything that might make sense of the messages. Finally, unable to contain it, he pulled up Rebecca's phone when she'd stepped out to check on Lily. His hands shook as he swiped through her recent texts. There it was, messages exchanged with Megan. Words that were intimate, flirtatious, increasingly bold. The sense of betrayal hit him in waves. They had been planning to meet. They had been seeing each other for weeks. Jason sank into the chair, the room spinning. Every long hour at work, every missed dinner, every quiet night spent alone in the living room with his laptop, it was supposed to be for them, for their security, for their future, and she had been elsewhere. The first tears came quietly, almost silently. Not the angry, shouting tears he imagined, but the kind that seep into your chest and hollow it out. He felt numb. A part of him wanted to confront her immediately, but another deeper part knew he needed to understand first, to process. He left the study only when he heard Lily's small footsteps approaching. She climbed onto his lap without a word, sensing something but not knowing what. Jason held her, burying his face in her hair. "Hey, kiddo," he whispered. "How was your day?" "Good," she said simply, but her small voice carried a weight that made his chest tighten. Later, after tucking Lily into bed, Jason sat on the edge of their bed, staring at the ceiling. Rebecca had joined him eventually, curling next to him, warm and unsuspecting. He wanted to tell her immediately, to confront her with the proof, but he couldn't. Not yet. He lay awake, haunted by the texts, haunted by the realization that everything he had trusted, everything he had worked for, had been built on a lie. Sleep never came that night. The next morning, Jason woke before the alarm. The house was still, bathed in the pale gold of early winter sunlight filtering through the blinds. He moved silently through the kitchen, making coffee as if nothing had changed, but inside, his thoughts were a tempest. When Rebecca emerged, dressed for work, she hummed softly, a sound that used to be comforting, now grating against the tension coiled in his chest. "Morning," she said, kissing him on the cheek. Jason nodded, forcing a tight smile. "Morning." She paused, noticing something. "You okay? You look tired." He swallowed hard. "We need to talk." Her expression shifted, a flicker of worry passing across her face. "About what?" Jason gestured for her to sit at the kitchen table. The coffee mug in his hands shook slightly, betraying the calm he tried to project. "About us. About everything." Rebecca's lips parted, and for a moment Jason thought she might laugh it off, say he was imagining things. But the seriousness in his tone silenced her. She sat, eyes searching his. I saw the messages, Rebecca, between you and Megan. The colour drained from her face. Her hands clutched the edge of the table as though it were a lifeline. Jason, I. No, he interrupted, his voice tight, brittle. Don't start with excuses. Her shoulders slumped. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered almost to herself. It started as flirting. I didn't think it would. I never wanted to hurt you. Jason's chest felt like it was constricting. He had spent months, years, working tirelessly for this family, working while she smiled beside him, while she joked about long nights at the office. And all this time, betrayal had been quietly threading its way between them. Did you love him? The words slipped out before he could stop them. Rebecca flinched. I don't know. It wasn't about love. It was something I didn't realize I was missing. And I hate myself for it. Jason looked down at his hands, shaking. He felt a strange mixture of anger, sorrow, and disbelief. Do you know what it's like to come home exhausted every night? To miss your daughter's bedtime for a meeting and then find this? To realize that the woman I trusted with my life, she's been living a lie? Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. I know, she said softly. I'm sorry, I never wanted it to get this far, I swear. Jason turned away, pacing the narrow kitchen. I can't just forgive and forget. I don't even know if I can talk to you without feeling like I'm drowning. She reached out, trembling. I'll do whatever it takes. Counseling, space, anything. I want us, our family, to survive this. Jason paused, the raw ache in his chest making it hard to breathe. I don't know if I can trust anything anymore, he admitted, his voice breaking. The late nights, the phone calls, I thought they were sacrifices for us. And they weren't. They were nothing. They meant nothing to you? Rebecca's sobs were quiet, restrained. I was selfish. I'm so sorry. I love you, Jason. I love Lily. Please don't leave me. Please. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Part of him wanted to reach out, to hold her, to salvage what they had built together. But another part, the part that had been silently betrayed over months, wanted nothing more than to leave and never look back. Jason left the kitchen without a word, heading to the study. He closed the door behind him and sank into the chair by the desk, burying his face in his hands. The house was quiet, but the silence was oppressive. He felt hollow, stripped of the certainties he had taken for granted. For hours, he thought of every missed bedtime, every late night at work, every laugh shared between Rebecca and her friend. He replayed the texts in his mind, each one a hammer blow to the trust he had built. The betrayal was not just in the act itself, but in the countless small deceptions, the lies tucked into ordinary moments, invisible until now. He thought of Lily, of her small, trusting eyes, and his chest tightened. How could he rebuild a home when the foundation felt like sand slipping through his fingers? As evening came, Jason remained in the study, the room growing dim around him. He didn't hear Rebecca come in with dinner. He didn't hear her small attempts at conversation. The betrayal had carved a chasm between them that neither words nor apologies could immediately bridge. He stared at the desk, at the phone still lying where he had set it down the night before. He wanted to delete it, throw it away, forget. But he couldn't. It was proof. And proof mattered now more than anything. Sleep came later that night, fitful and haunted by images of a life he thought he knew unraveling before his eyes. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards, the muted whisper of winter wind against the windows. Jason sat in the study, the dim light of a desk lamp casting long shadows across the room. His phone lay untouched on the desk, the messages from Megan and Rebecca still burning in his memory. He thought about the months, no, the years he had poured himself into work, into providing for his family. Long hours, endless weekends, missed recitals, quiet birthdays. Everything had been for them, and yet all it had earned him was the discovery that the person he loved most could betray him with such ease. His mind wandered to moments he could no longer see as innocent. Rebecca laughing a little too long at a text, stepping out to run errands when she wasn't gone long enough to buy groceries. Every memory now carried a shadow of doubt, every shared smile a question mark. Jason stood and walked through the darkened house, each room a reminder of what felt lost. Lily's bedroom, with its tiny bed and colourful drawings on the walls, filled him with both love and guilt. Could he shield her from the fracture growing between her parents? Could he teach her trust when his own foundation had been shattered? He found himself in the living room, sinking into the couch, staring at the muted TV. His reflection in the dark screen was pale, hollow eyed, older than his 36 years. Anger came first, sharp and burning. Anger at Rebecca, at Megan, at himself for not seeing it sooner. But as the minutes passed, it turned inward, twisting into sorrow. A grief for the life he thought he had and the life that might never exist again. He thought of the confrontation that had passed, the raw words exchanged, the tears shed, the silence that followed. There had been no shouting, no accusations screamed into the night, only quiet devastation. And now, in the stillness, Jason realized that quiet devastation might be the worst kind. It allowed no outlet, no release, only reflection and the slow burn of betrayal. He remembered Rebecca's voice, small and trembling, telling him she loved him, promising to make amends. And yet he could not reach the part of himself that would simply accept her words. Love alone could not erase what had been done, could not undo the months of secret meetings, the intimacy shared with another. Sitting there, Jason understood that the next steps mattered more than the immediate emotions. He could leave, walking away from everything he had built and all the love he still felt for his daughter. He could stay, attempting the impossible, to rebuild trust brick by brick, to navigate a house now haunted by suspicion, to forgive without forgetting. Sleep found him that night only briefly, fractured by dreams of Megan's face and Rebecca's apologies, intertwined in ways that left him breathless with grief and confusion. Each moment of rest brought no solace, only the relentless churn of questions he could not answer. How long had it been going on? Did she even care for him anymore? Could he ever feel safe again in his own home? The following days blurred together. Jason moved through them like a ghost, present in body but absent in spirit. He returned to work, throwing himself into tasks with a mechanical precision, avoiding the news, the phone, even conversations with Rebecca. Every moment at home was a test of restraint, resisting the urge to collapse into tears, to scream, to demand answers that might break them all. At night, he would sit alone in the study, staring at the glowing clock, listening to the distant hum of the heating system, and think. He thought of love, and of trust, and of the fragility of both. He thought of the person he had been, and of the person he had to become to survive this, to protect Lily, to navigate a life that had suddenly shifted into unrecognizable terrain. Jason understood that healing, if it were even possible, would not be immediate. It would not be linear. There would be days of hope, fleeting and fragile, and days of despair, heavy and suffocating. He would have to relearn the rhythm of home, the texture of intimacy, and perhaps even the contours of his own heart. And yet, amid the ache and the betrayal, a quiet determination took root. He would not let this break him entirely. He would not allow the affair to define his worth or the value of his love. He would confront it, piece by piece, day by day. He would decide what staying and leaving truly meant, not in fits of emotion, but with the measured clarity he had learned in long nights alone. Jason exhaled, a long, shuddering breath. He did not yet know what the future held, or if the cracks in his life could ever be fully mended, but he knew, with a clarity born of pain, that he would face it. And in that, he found the faintest glimmer of hope, a fragile ember against the cold darkness of betrayal. He rose from the chair, walking slowly to the window. Outside, the world continued, indifferent to his heartbreak. Cars passed, neighbors moved, children laughed. Life went on. And perhaps, he thought, so would he. The night stretched on, quiet and watchful, while Jason stood at the edge of uncertainty, caught between grief and resolve, betrayal and possibility. And in that space, he began the long, slow work of understanding, of reckoning, and of moving forward, one tentative step at a time.